Book of Af, son of Jehovah. Being the heavenly records of Af, son of Jehovah, and of his companion, Ninya, daughter of Jehovah, as pertaineth to the submersion of the continent of Wagga afterward called Pan, signifying earth. And this period was commonly called the Deluge, or flood of waters. Chapter I. 1 In the time of the world 24,000 years before the Cosmic era, the great serpent solar phalanx being in the ark of Noah, in the Etherean heavens, and of the sum of Haut and J87, the earth and her heavens were in great darkness. But the Spirit of Jehovah moved upon his high-raised God, Af, in Etheria, to consecrate new dominions on the earth and her heavens. Af said to I, Af, son of Jehovah, God in the ark of Noah, in sum of Haut, in Etheria, came to Hutta, heaven of the red star, in Jehovah's name. And his wisdom, power and love, manifested in mine own resurrection, to become companion to gods and goddesses and Orient chiefs on the thrones of high heaven, proclaim 3. To the atmospherean spirits of the earth, and to the spirits of the first, second and third resurrections, abiding on the earth, or near thereto, either with mortals or without. To the God and Lords, and to their Saviour, and to all holy ones by Jehovah raised up for the redemption of men and angels 4. In the ark of Noah came to me the voice of Jehovah, Creator of worlds, saying 5. I am the All-Highest. My service extendeth forever. I go not, but I am afar. I come not, and yet I am near. My voice is in all places. The light of the soul of man heareth me. I speak in the vine that creepeth, and in the strong standing oak. 6. Hear the voice of your Creator, O ye angels of heaven. Carry ye the wisdom of my utterance down to mortals. Call them to the glories of the heavens and the broad earth. Behold, my voice is in the rocks, and in the wind that bloweth, and in all things that have not tongues. 7. Show them my suns and stars in the firmament above. For they are my written words. My voice proceedeth in the space of heaven. The wise angels of my exalted places hear the sound going forth. Hearken to my speech, O ye spirits of the dead. Proclaim me, O ye gods and goddesses. 8. They look for me as they look for things. They hearken for my voice as for a man's voice. And they find me not, nor hear that which I have spoken. Yet none can efface my words. My wisdom endureth forever. Behold, I come not as a sound to the ear. My voice heath into the soul from all sides. 9. Teach them, O ye angels. They look not in the right way. Their ears are turned after loud claps and noises. They cry out, Alas, I hear not the voice of Jehovah. He hath not spoken. His voice hath no man heard. He is the all-silent, and dumber than the things he created. 10. They have turned away from my God and my Lord's. In conceit and darkness have they shut themselves up. They have peopled the air of the earth about with spirits of darkness, the drudges of men of darkness and cannibals. Their fetals float back upon them. Like devouring vermin they burrow deep in pollution. 11. Remember them, O God, my Son, and ye, my Lords of earth. Have no pity, but be as a surgeon's knife upon them. Thou hast told them, O God Jehovah liveth and reigneth, his voice standeth the All-Highest. But they have mocked thee and thy lords, and turned away after iniquity. 12. They are fearful lest they believe in my person and my voice. Of their own gabble they have no fear. They criticize me and my God and my Lord's. But they own that they know me not. They suppose my exalted heavens are without order and discipline. My captains they ignore, and the teachings of my holy ones are criticized by men of straw. 13. Have they not said, Who is God, that I should adore? And the Lord, that I should hearken? But I turn their eyes to the armies of the earth, to the general and the captain. Then they say, Our affairs on earth are officered and disciplined. We reverence our highest, great captains. 14. Shall they turn God away, and the Lord? What shall the Creator do to please them? Is not the name of my general God, and my captain Lord, my own creation? Who found the name of God in the name of the Lord? Why are they not pleased with my gods and my lords? 15. Hear me, O ye Etherean gods and goddesses. They desire not wisdom and resurrection. Their love lieth in darkness. To eat, to sleep and to devour are the delights of their souls. The first lesson of life they have not learned. The first heaven of the earth is to them the all of the created worlds. 16. Hear my judgment upon them, O ye, my holy angels, and long risen. For I have raised them up again and again. I have founded lower heavens for them that they might learn. But they fall the moment my gods leave them alone. 17. Now will I carry away their heaven and earth, and they shall be seen no more forever. But the Deluges and Fiatisi shall be carried to Oahspe and cast into walls of fire. And they shall be divided up into groups. Kin shall be torn away from kin, and friend from friend, and mother from daughter, and father from son. For they are become as absorbents, sucking one another continually. 18. And the walls of fire shall go up around them without ceasing, and they shall not escape. And they that guard them shall keep them from one another, that they shall do no evil. Neither shall they sleep nor rest, but be stirred up and made to know that they are alive, and can exist independent of fetal sucking. 19. Hear my voice, O God, and command thy Lord to proclaim on the earth. Have I not made an example before mortals? Behold the carrion that rotteth in the field. Is it not the feast of the hyena, the wolf and the buzzard? Do not worms come to life therein and turn to and devour the carcass that brought them forth? 20. What more is the earth pan to these spirits of evil and darkness? What more is their first heaven than a place of perpetual devouring? Have they not made it a place of everlasting destruction? They visit their evils upon mortals. The young child cannot escape them, nor the middle-aged, nor the old man nor old woman. 21. The heavenly kingdoms founded by gods and lords have become pest houses for Deluges and Fiatisi. There is no place left for founding the upright and virtuous in heart. 22. Are my gods and lords servants to an evil world? And shall they find only rottenness to deal with? Now have I answered in the firmament of my holy sons and daughters. I have called them from remote places in heaven to witness the work of my hand. For as I made the earth and its heaven, so rule I over it to the same end for which I created it. 23. When they are short of my measure, I lengthen them out. When they run foul, I prune them to my own liking. For they are mine. Behold, the fool hath said Jehovah hath made a failure. Behold, the Creator created a world for a certain purpose, but it run foul of his mark. 24. Hear me, O God, and through thy Lords answer thou him in his conceit. Did I not quicken man into life in mine own way? At zero created I him, and I said 2 roads have I made, O man. One leadeth to everlasting light, and the other to everlasting darkness. 25. Now have I shown him the darkness. It is my witness, whereby man knoweth my word is all truth. Wherefore, then, should I not create the world, and man, and angels, that they go down in everlasting darkness? Is it not by darkness and pain I push man forward? Yea, the conceited man would fail himself but for the failures I set up before him. Wherefore, then, have I not created wisely? 26. Have I not a right to do mine own way? Are not all things mine? If a man die in the corporeal part, is he a failure? How else could man rise to my ethereal worlds? Open his eyes, O my God and my Lords. He was not, and I created him. He presumeth to look into my plans and judgments. By his little learning he exalteth his conceit and pretendeth to know all things. 27. I cause the grain to grow in the field, and the day before it is ripe I send wind and rains and destroy it utterly. I bring forth man with shapely limbs and strong arms, but in the day of his prime I cut him down. I give the passion of love to the mother, but I take away her firstborn. 28. Know I not that first of all things, man shall be taught to know my power, and after that my wisdom? Have they seen the places of the dead, and hell, and destruction? Teach them, O God. for their ultimate resurrection is my glory and my delight. 29. Shall man of earth say the Creator was angry, and so sent the land beneath the ocean? He hath not wisdom to comprehend that this day I cast out hell and destruction. The drug is his love, and, as vampires, they feed on each other to the ruin of both. 30. But I know what is for their own good, and my decree hath gone forth. Chapter E. 1. I, son of Jehovah, high dwelling in the Etherean worlds, and oft trained in the change and tumult of corporeal worlds, answered Jehovah, saying to Father of worlds, Jehovah, Almighty, thy Son and servant hath heard thy voice. Behold, my head is bowed, my knee bent to rush forth with 1,000,000,000 force to the suffering earth and Wagga. 3. Hear me, O angels of the earth's heaven. From Jehovah's everlasting kingdoms, I speak, and by his power reveal. Again his voice coursed the high heavens along where angels dwell, older than the earth. Jehovah said Hear me, O ye chieftains, of Or and of Ut, and in the plains of Gibbethotova. Proclaim my word to thy hosts of swift messengers of Wagga and Belathon and Dor, and they shall speed it abroad in the Augean mounds of Menabra and Cax of Gowh. 5. Hear my voice, O ye goddesses of Fiatisi and of Vivianadram in the Etherean arcs of Fas and League, and Oahspe. Proclaim my decrees of the red star and her heavens in the crash of her rebellious sides, for I will harvest in the forests of Seth and Ram. 6. Hear my voice, O ye monk suits, of millions of years standing, and managers of corporeal worlds. I have proclaimed the us and his of the red star in her pride and glory. Send word abroad in the highway of Plumfgo to the great high gods, my Antaf in the Etherean vortices of Bane, and to Rome and to Neshiotosa and Deluge. 7. Hear me, O ye Orion kings and queens of thousands of millions of gods and goddesses. I have spoken in the Kvorkum of the great serpent of the sun. A wave of my breath speedeth forth in the broad firmament. The red star flieth toward the point of my whetted sword. 8. Proclaim my voice in the Orion fields of Amal and Wagga. Let the clear-tongued shepherds of Zuyas, and Burk, and Goa, and Damfariana, fly with all speed in the road of Oahspe, where first the red star's vortex gathered up its nebulae, millions of years agone, and on the way say Jehovah hath decreed the pruning knife to a traveling world. 9. Shouted abroad in the crystal heavens of the summering lords of Wagga and Gi and Mgo and Utah. Call them to the red star speeding forth. Lo, she skippeth as a lamb to be shorn. Her coming shock leath slumbering low. Let them carry the sound of my voice to the Gaian swamps of exploded worlds, boiling in the roar of elements, where wise angels and gods explore to find the mystery of my handiwork. 10. Tell them I have spoken, and the earth and her heavens near the troughs in the Etherean seas of my rich-yielding worlds. I will scoop her up as a toy, and her vortex shall close about like a serpent hungry for its prey. Proclaim it in Thessa and Cowantinwakiak, and send them to Jichfam of Janak and Dun. 11. Hear me, O ye Chrysalmacholdek, who have witnessed the creation of many worlds and their going out. Open your gardens and your mansions. The seine of my fishing pole is stretched. Countless millions of drud and fetals will fall into my net. My voice hath gone forth in Chemgo and Lu and Abroth, and Huatavi, and Cuts of Maz in the wide Etherean fields of Radiowski. 12. Hail Beth heard me. Borg, Hum, Z and Luth, of the Orion homestead, and Ker, whence emanate the central tones of music, from goddesses older than the corporeal worlds. To them the crash of worlds is as a note created, and is rich in stirring the memory with things long past. 13. I have spoken, and my breath is a floating world. My speech is written in the lines where travel countless millions of suns and stars. And in the midst of the Etherean firmament of the homes of gods. Let them shout to the ends of the universe. Invite them in my name to the hidden of Mokbianjo. 14. Around about in the place of the great serpent send swift messengers with the words of my decree. Bring the lords and gods of Wine and Anna and Anikaran and Seth. 15. call up Gad and Adonia and Edesiah and Onasi and the hosts of the upraised, for the pastime of Jehovah's sons and daughters in the high heavens draweth near. Chapter 3. 1. O ye angels, of Hada of the red star! And thou, O God, and ye lords, upraised and mighty, with hosts, countless, and quick answering the thoughts of mortals, hear the words of Af, son of Jehovah 2. When I was in the Orion ark of Noah, and the red star passed the Utswal the ark, in the Etherian group of Vorh, the voice of Jehovah came to me, saying, Go thou, my son, deliver the earth. Take with thee all whom I may send. 3. And I examined the records of the stars of heaven, and of the earth, and the accounts of Jehovah's harvests, and I perceived the bondage and labor of the red star were of the 7th magnitude in the advance of habitable worlds. 4. When his voice called the legions in high heaven, from every side, and below and above the earth, there moved myriads of shapely stars, which were ships of fire, coursing the firmament, whereon rode the gods and goddesses called by Jehovah to the labor of earth and Hada. 5. Closing in on every side they came, and nearer and more compact, and brighter, with sparkling pillars of fire, and down-swaying curtains of light, till all the space around about the earth was hedged in with this army of Jehovah's Etherian ships of fire. 6. Again I heard the Father's voice, saying, O Af, my son, my Holy One, hearken to the voice of Jehovah, Creator of gods and goddesses. 7. Behold, I sent my son, Neph, to the red star, with wisdom and power. Long hath he been gone, long struggling with the black darkness of men and angels. 8. As a valiant soldier rusheth into the heaviest part of battle, and forgetteth himself in desperate contest, but ceaseth not to struggle on against all odds, even so for 3,000 years hath my God, Neph, hoped to save the whole limbs of the earth, the continents. 9. From my holy place have I watched the battle for everlasting life. But the too prolific earth contributeth more to the corporeal than to the spiritual man. And I bring my legions to the rescue of my valiant son, Neph. Send thou to him, O Af, my son. Proclaim to him and his lords, and to his Etherenes, my just decrees. Af said. 10. And I sent swift messengers down to Hada, informing Neph, son of Jehovah, of the march and presence of gods, and of the decree of the Father. And I added through to, saying, O Neph, son of Jehovah, come hither, bringing thy hosts with thee. 11. Presently Neph answered me in Jehovah's name, saying, O Af, son of Jehovah, I come. My prayers are answered. All praise to the All-Highest. 12. Then we saw, making ready in Hada, preparatory to ascending, the ship of Neph and his faithful hosts. And that which was seen from my place was also seen by the myriad of Jehovah's vessels surrounding the earth. And my place became as a central throne to which the hosts now made speed, swift and orderly. 13. And in the time they came, also rose up the ship of Neph from Hada. Meanwhile, my ship rested on the borders of Chunvat, in the school of Hine, and from the moon 7 Agus. 14. Again the voice of Jehovah came to me, saying, My son, make fast thy ship, for thy place shall be the head of the army of my hosts. And let thy consorts extend in a line from thy place down to the earth, for this shall be the delivery of them whom I shall cut off. 15. So I made fast, and my messengers hastened to the concentrating forces of heaven, informing the Etherian groups on Jehovah's ships of his commandments. And now came Neph. His ship rose up, filled with his long laboring hosts. And I greeted him and said unto him, By the power and wisdom of Jehovah, the continent of Wagga is to be cut loose and submerged, and her heavens carried away. Return thou to the earth and bring all the spirits of darkness from all the divisions of earth and heaven to Wagga, that I may carry them away. Then Neph and his hosts viewed the imposing scene and returned back to the earth. 16. Quickly, now, the ships of fire formed in line, extending from my place down to Hada, where rested Neph and his lords of the earth, whose hosts extended to all the divisions of land and water, embracing the various heavenly kingdoms previously built by the lords. 17. and in the line of the Etherian ships were stationed the plateau of rank. And the hosts of gods and goddesses took their places according to the rank of wisdom, power and love manifested in the Etherian departments whence they came, with the 2 Orion chiefs at either extremity. 18. And I divided the line into sections, each with 250 ships, and there were 1,000 sections. And every ship was contracted 10,000-fold, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. 19. Along the line I stationed sentinels and talisman, and messengers, without number, so that Jehovah's voice and his Son's voices could traverse in a moment of time to every part. And after that I formed the tube of transit, which extended in front of the ships, and from the earth to beyond Chunvat. And I filled it with the earth's atmosphere to the extreme, whither it joined Iosink, whither I determined to deliver the drugis and fetals of such as were to perish in the ocean of the earth. 20. For every 10 sections I appointed 100 marshals and 1 god, and for every 10 gods 1 chief in Amuts. According to their rank in the heavens whence they came, so appointed I them. These, then, are the chief Amuts, to wit 21. Agar, of the order of Achav, son of Jehovah, in Boich, from the corporeal star Gadad, raised in Betavaji, 70, of 700,000 years inhabitant of Gun. 22. Hagi, son of Jehovah, marshal of Haddam and Ag, nebulae 4 and Petrath. Swift messenger of Jun, of the corporeal star Lanx, of 1,200,000 years inhabitant of Rothwak and Joys. 23. Fista Humadivi, daughter of Jehovah, Ga and Udsalan in K. Goddess of Ein. Goddess of Ad. Governess of Walio, of the corporeal star Turig, and of the plains of Exer and Goan, in the Etherian ark of Labis, of 1,300,000 years. 24. Hiata, daughter of Jehovah, and nurse of Huinbak, in 57, Agi, of the corporeal star Heats, a milkmaid, goddess of love, goddess of the plateau of Obanf, in Etheria, rank 90, and of 2 millions of years inhabitant of Nudendix. 25. Golmops, son of Jehovah, god of Ne, god of Apper, god of Dawn, god of Mu, god of Ro. Physician of Bo, and of Ir, and of Janner. Marshal of Cute and Aban of Shirar, in Etheria, of the Augean field of Dew. Of 700,000 years inhabitant of Onlaf and Pictus. 26. Neo, god of Lun and Hentaya. God of Moors, and of Thespune. Master of Pan, Savior of Oahspe, Augie Plain 7, and risen from the corporeal star Sidney, an inhabitant of Cern 1,700,000 years. 27. Sichi, goddess of Nu, in Lutz and Rab. Goddess of Bad. Goddess of Tur. Goddess of Red, Augie 20, from the corporeal star Ithmuel, inhabitant of Suba 1,000,000 of years. Inhabitant of Rana 1,200,000 years. 28. Listiakika, goddess of Man. Goddess of Urs. Goddess of Salmon Weaver of Oltebek and Agimus. Rank 90, raised on the corporeal star Mem. Inhabitant of Dasawik and Gabriamadi 2,900,000 years. 29. Tusika, goddess of Kul. Goddess of Lost and Watawagat. Goddess of Duiji and Lu of Magatsa. Goddess of Ip. Goddess Gek of Hanashalonka. Goddess of Tur in the Gaian swamp of Dabakta, 55, raised on the corporeal sun Nitz, of the Serpentan, inhabitant of Ayirhatsivi, 2 millions of years. Inhabitant of Pali 1,700,000 years. 30. Fiatisi, goddess of Lubbock. Goddess of Sarania, in Galilolo. Goddess of Iz. Goddess of Searle. Goddess of Loklo. Goddess of Mavaji, 75. Goddess of Warts and Doihuida. Goddess of Krya. Goddess of Baku. Goddess of Teal and Rosyets. Goddess of Mudsmuts. Goddess of Lairits of Walkohumhots. Goddess of Bill and Duskanagesel. Goddess of Orgsa. Goddess of Ungsut. Goddess of Slahuida. Goddess of Shine. Goddess of Isa. Goddess of Ham. goddess of Riko and Shuadit, goddess of Dawing and Guak, goddess of Fatazamal, goddess of Zitayarhab of the gardens of Zitayarbalf in Augie 7, surgeon of Hwala, surgeon of Bas, surgeon of Rapaya, surgeon of Lumazon, nurse of Pega of Semethes, nurse of Zid, nurse of Lucy, nurse of Home, nurse of Briathath, queen of Upa, queen of Wagga, disciplinarian of Ta, of Kaviasamak, of Tutsmuts, of Berber, of Tenski, of Rivia, of Sun, of Hadab, of Fusalhots and Ceres. Raised on the star Planza, swift messenger in Balandwaiwalok 500,000 years. Swift messenger in Tawaka and Runfwat 500,000 years. Inhabitant of Terashash 1 million of years. Inhabitant of the fields of Najoye 1 million of years. Inhabitant of Gun 500,000 years. Maker of corporeal roadways 500,000 years. 31. So Fiatisi outranked all other gods and goddesses, and was special guest of honor to Af, chief over all the rest. 32. And the star Fiatisi's Etherian ship was stationed near the earth, that she might the better behold the deliverance of the spirits that were to be freed by the submersion of the land of Wagga. And of these spirits there were upward of 24,400,000,000, of whom more than 3 billion were fetals and familiars and spirits in chaos. Chapter IV. 1 Jehovah said, Af, my son, put a wall of pillars of fire around about the land of Wagga. Plant them near, as a hedge is planted. For the false gods and false goddesses of Hada, when perceiving their habitation going down into the water, will endeavor to escape to Jud and Vohu, and other countries. 2. But thou shalt not suffer one to escape. For they have migrated to this division of the earth because of its sumptuous productions, the better to feast their evil desires. 3. And thou shalt spread a net around the borders of Wagga, against the line of the ocean and to the high north mountains. And the net shall encompass the continent of Wagga, and it shall be to the height of 1,000 miles, and in breadth, so that no spirit of darkness can escape and find the way abroad. 4. And when thou hast spread the net, thou shalt send to the large kingdoms in Hada, and to the false kingdoms, a sufficient number of Etherenes of great power. And thou shalt send down to the earth, to Wagga, a sufficient number of Etherenes, that every mortal man and mortal woman, and every mortal child, shall have 5 to attend. And they that go to mortals shall take with them birth blankets a sufficiency. For in the time of destruction, when the mortals go down in death, thy servants shall receive liberated spirits on the birth blankets, and bear them to the atmospherean column of ascent. And hither shall thy hosts receive them and provide them with food and clothes, after the manner of Essenes. 5. But it shall come to pass that many mothers shall perish in the waters, with children in the womb, which live by fetal, as is proper in my sight, for so created I them. 6. Therefore, to all such fetals give special care, for they are without sin. And when the mother is dead corporeally, and the fetal also, bring hence their spirits, but together. And provide a volunteer angel of fetal power, and deliver the infant spirit to her to be nurtured until the proper time of weaning, and provide in the same place a home for the mother of the child, that she may inherit its love and mirth. 7. When the voice ceased, Af, son of Jehovah, looked about over the hosts as if in search of a sign that the time had come. But again Jehovah spake, saying 8. In the misfortunes of a fallen world, created I food for the warm love of my Etherean goddesses. Behold them hereabout in millions. Everyone in hope of receiving a prize of that which was lost in darkness, to raise up sons and daughters, who shall rejoice in everlasting paradise. Think not that I give the talent of love only to a mother for her child, and there the talent to end. For as the talent in its incipient age bindeth her soul to her child, so doth the same talent in my goddesses overspread a helpless world. 9. Are they not as midwives and mothers to thousands and millions of souls being delivered from corporeal bondage into everlasting light? And who can number them? Here standeth 100 millions come from Lagos, 100 millions from Anopta, 200 millions from Kardak, 100 millions from Buchk, 200 millions from Neon, 250 millions from Luthig, 100 millions from Pied, 200 millions from Reg, 50 millions from Navis, 200 millions from Dokdek, and 250 millions from Od. 10. I spake in the Etherean firmament, and they have answered me. Yea, they come not as curiosity seekers, and with empty arms. But, behold them, arrayed with their thousands and millions of small equipments suited to the newborn. What thing is there under the sun they have not remembered to bring with them in some part, for regimen or drapery, to rejoice the souls of them that are to be cut off from corpor? Chapter V. 1 Jehovah said, Now will I bewail thee, O earth. The glories of thy heavens that are past and gone shall be a lesson to the gods. Thy place of hoard, once the place of the wisdom of my son, thoughts, upraised, behold it is measured and gone down. And Moab is no more, Yeshua is fallen. Where floated the plateau of many resurrections, are now mirroring vampires and millions of souls that hear not and see not, but are forever burrowing deep in everlasting darkness. 2. The plateau are broken up. The substance scattered and unorganized. Nor is there a vestige left to show the glorious work of the gods of the earth's past day. 3. Hear me, O ye gods and goddesses, for in beholding these deep miseries, the soul is quickened to retain great wisdom. Thus created I man. Out of darkness created I him. And my holy angels taught him to walk upright and gave him my commandments that he might advance to eternal light. But because man obeyed not the commandments of my God and Lord's, he fell. Nevertheless, a few obeyed the commandments and fell not, raising up heirs for the glory of my heavens above. 4. Of such have I made an example on all the corporeal worlds I created. For those that fell not, became exemplars before the fallen. For having faith in me and my works they questioned not my wisdom and justice. 5. But of those that fell, this is the history: they first questioned my person. Next my wisdom. Next my justice. Next my power. And after that proclaimed the folly of God and his lords. Whereupon they usurped to themselves to say there is nothing higher than man. And they said of themselves, I am the highest. 6. Hear my voice, O ye gods and goddesses. For as out of a contrary when I give a mortal sea captain a wholesome lesson, or as out of a severe winter I give a corporeal farmer a lesson in providing for his household, even so, on the brink of a wicked world, give I ye a lesson on the management of my kingdoms. For from this time forth the earth shall not fail, nor her heavens above her. Wherein, then, shall not my gods rule over her in wisdom and power? 7. Since many angels assumed they were the all-highest, they put aside the commandments, one of which was to suffer not the spirits of the newly dead to return and dwell with their mortal kindred. For they, not knowing of the higher heavens, will teach falsely of Jehovah and his everlasting kingdoms. 8. And it came to pass that when one commandment was set aside the others were also. And it followed that the spirits of the newly dead, who are without knowledge of heaven, led mortals in their own way. 9. For they dwelt together and slept together, and in dreams and visions mortals judged themselves to be wise, not knowing they were obsessed in sleep. And for the desires of the flesh they found acquiescence in spirit, having no higher God or Lord. 10. And as one spirit returned and fastened itself on a mortal, so did another and another, till hundreds and thousands of spirits dwelt in one corporeal body, often driving hence the natural spirit I gave in the time of conception. And these mortals knew it not. And they became void of direct purpose because of the confusion of soul, and they were worthless on the earth. 11. Jehovah further said, Henceforth for a long season shall it be on the earth that the spirits of the Escients shall not be suffered to return and dwell with mortals. But the earth shall be encompassed on all sides with walls of Eman, and with ashers to bear away the spirits of the dead in the hour of death. 12. But there shall come a time when mortals are capable of comprehending these matters, in which time their kindred spirits shall return at intervals from their holy labors in heaven, and see them and talk with them face to face. Chapter Vi. 1 And now Aph, son of Jehovah, said when the Etherean hosts were arranged in due order, I called out to thee, O Jehovah, saying in thy strength and wisdom, O Father, join thou the heavens above and the earth below. 2. And the end of the Etherean column that extended to Chinvat, on the border of the vortex of the earth, was made fast by the pressure of thy wide heavens. 3. Again I said in thy strength and wisdom, O Jehovah, join thou the heavens above with the earth below. 4. And the end of the Etherean column that extended down to the earth was made fast around the borders of Wagga, by the sea and the high mountains on the north. 5. Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver thou the earth from evil, for thy glory, forever. 6. And the vortex of the earth closed in from the extreme, and lo, the earth was broken. A mighty continent was cut loose from its fastenings, and the fires of the earth came forth in flames and clouds with loud roaring. And the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea. 7. Again I said, O Jehovah, deliver thou thy heavens, which are bound as with a chain, to a rotten carcass. 8. And again the vortex of the earth closed in about on all sides, and by the pressure, the land sank down beneath the water, to rise no more. And the corporeans went down to death. And the fetals and familiars gave up the battle. Neither had they whereon to stand, nor knew how to go to any place in all the heavens, but were lost and crying out for help. 9. And my hosts hastened in all directions with their birth blankets, and received the drug and fetals and Essenes in millions and millions, and gathered them to the place of the fountain of light, where there I had provided atmosphere for them, and they were placed within. And their numbers were so great that even gods had scarce seen the like before. And in order to attest before thee, O Jehovah, I had them numbered, using the sections of the divisions of my gods and goddesses in order to do so. 10. And there were of drug and fetals 16,600,000,000, many of whom had lived on earth as fetals and drug for thousands of years, though many others of them were not capable of everlasting life. And of the first resurrection there were 36,000 millions. And of the second resurrection there were 305 millions. But during the last 100 years the earth brought forth none capable of everlasting life, save, indeed, the remnants of Edens. 11. Now when the earth was delivered, and there was no escape for the spirits of the dead, nor no returning to mortals, I called out to thee, O Jehovah, saying, Give me of thy power, O Jehovah, and I will carry up all the plateau of hell and the heavens of a buried continent. And thy hand came as the blade of a sword, flaming like fire, and swept over the ocean of the sunken land, cleaving all asunder. And, lo and behold, the anchorage of my feet was cut loose, and the spears of heaven at my command. 12. Thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, Descend thou, my son, down to the floor of the resurrection, and take my daughter, Fiatisi, with thee, and go into the midst of the place of ascension, for I will add unto thy glory the resurrection of all that thine eyes have beholden. 13. So I descended, and took Fiatisi, daughter of Jehovah, with me. And when we were come into the place commanded, thy power came upon the place, and it started upward. And soon thereafter it turned on its vertical axis and rose higher and higher, turning and rising. And we saw we were loose from the earth, and no longer rotated with the earth, but rose slowly upward, watching the earth rotating beneath us. 14. I said, Upward, O Jehovah! Upward, O Jehovah! Upward, O Jehovah! And all the hosts repeated the same words, for our wills and knowledge were as a unit, wherein we had strength in thee, our Creator. Chapter 7. 1 Jehovah spake in the firmament, saying, Bring the newborn into the forests of Uklu and the Gaian roads to the ark of Noah, in the Etherean heaven of Huachuan. And when thou hast founded them on a world of their own, leave thou gods and goddesses with them to sort them and provide according to their necessities, for all things shall be provided unto them that they may attain to knowledge and individuality. 2. And when thou hast placed them, hasten thou with my son, Neph, back to the earth, where I have labor with the ships of the Edens. And they were thus delivered. 3. So I departed as soon as possible, taking leave of Fiatisi, thanking her for her assistance in this great deliverance. And I took with me Neph, son of Jehovah, and other 30,000 gods and goddesses, besides 10 million Ethereans who had had thousands of years' experience in heaven and on various corporeal worlds. And we came back to the earth, even to the ocean where the land had gone down. 4. And when I came to the ships in which the Ihans were escaped, finding the gods who had them in charge, even as I had previously commanded, thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, bend thou the currents of the winds of heaven, O my son, and shape the ships that they shall fall into groups. And thou shalt divide the groups, making 4 groups in all. And thou shalt drive the groups of ships before the winds of heaven, and bring them into the 4 different lands of the earth, according to its previous history and adaptation. 5. For in all countries shall my chosen begin the laying down of the foundation of my everlasting kingdom, and they shall never more be destroyed by the people of darkness, neither of earth or heaven. 6. So I divided my hosts according to the labor thy commandments put upon me, making 4 divisions of them. And I said unto Neph, direct them, O God, to such countries as Jehovah hath shown thee, for thou knowest all the earth. For, remember, thou art still God of earth. 7. I said by thy light, Jehovah, I desire 2 ships to go to the north land, which was not sunken, for they shall be a testimony in time to come. Let thy gods, therefore, shift the winds and drive 2 ships aside from the rest, and in that same time my messengers will go and lead the way to the north land, where thy gods shall shape the winds of heaven. 8. Now, those in charge of the wind currents divided the ships and drove 2 of them off to the north land. And the gods and angels turned the currents about and drove the 4 groups of ships in 4 different ways, according to the directions of God, Son of Jehovah. And the messengers of God led the way, showing the gods and angels of the wind, the countries designated by Jehovah. 9. So it came to pass that in 150 days' time all the ships of the faithest were in the ports, and the people went ashore, in the different countries whither they had been taken. Again thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, behold, my people are few in the world, and lest they take the ships and sail about, and so get divided and lost, thou shalt send thy hosts down to the sea at night to sink the ships. 10. When I told God Neph what thou hadst said, God said unto me, my angels shall inspire the Ihans to take all things out of the ships, and this night shall thy hosts fulfill the commandment of Jehovah. And so it came to pass. The Ihans took all their goods out of the ships, not knowing they were inspired. And in the night I sent angels down, and they sank the ships. 11. And in the morning the Ihans beheld their ships had disappeared, and they said with one voice, of a truth, I know I was inspired, for I would not rest till all the goods were taken out of the ships. Let us, therefore, build an altar unto the Lord, and sing and dance, because he is with us. And when God Neph saw that their souls were propitious for good works and miracles, he stationed his Asher's guardian angels around about the altars, and sent other Ashers into the country, and they gathered fruit which was growing wild, and brought it to the Ihans, casting it on the altars of the Lord, even whilst the people danced. 12. Thus did I fulfill the work thou commandest of me, O Jehovah, whereupon I surrendered my commission to thy son, Neph, God of heaven and earth. Chapter 8. 1 Neph, God of earth, said, behold, O Aph, son of Jehovah, by the power and magnificence of thy work am I bewildered in thy presence. Who can come so near the Almighty? Who but Jehovah hath attained beyond the power of thy soul? Who hath wisdom like unto thee, save the great Creator? Thou hast stretched a line beyond the moon, and by thy spoken word crushed in the side of the great earth, as if it were nothing. Thou hast said, arise. And a world moved at thy command. Yea, thou hast the love and esteem of millions of gods and goddesses. 2. And thou comest against the winds of the earth, saying, turn ye hither or turn ye thither, and lo, the winds moved before thy words as an obedient child to its father's voice. Thou callest down the fire of heaven. It cometh at thy bidding. And thou sayest, O Jehovah, put thy hand under the heavens of the earth, and straightway a light and floor wide as the earth fly unto the place of thy desire. 3. Now, behold, thou hast said, O Jehovah, I surrender my commission. I have finished that which thou commandest me to do. Wherefore, O Af, my soul hath great sorrow. But because thou hast labored 100 days and cleaned up the whole earth and her heavens, as one might sweep the floor of a house, I am bowed down in gratitude. 4. Then Af, son of Jehovah, said, O Jehovah, what have I done that thy son's love hath come to me? So far as I have become one with thee, O thou everlasting Creator, so thou showest me plainer and plainer that I am nothing. And yet thy son heapeth praise upon me, seeing I am but as a figure moved by thy hand. Shall a man lose sight of the Almighty? 5. Nevertheless, O Jehovah, who so weak in love as I, thy servant, because thou hast quickened me in wisdom and power, so hast thou made my love as a place that can never be supplied to the fill. How shall I find strength to leave this, thy Son, on the far-off earth? Will I not glory in his love and great esteem? And yet know I not that I will repine because I have him not with me? 6. Hear me, O Jehovah, for I will measure thy Son with swiftness. Scarce 40,000 years raised up to Etheria, and yet thou madest him God of heaven and earth. For 3,000 years struggled he in the battle against evil and darkness. And the broad heavens in the Etherian world looked on in sympathy and love and hope, because of his tenacity and wisdom and power. 7. It was as one man fighting against a house on fire, and the place filled with helpless babes. And yet thy God ceased not, nor once rested and said it is useless, but forever renewed the battle in new ways and stratagems. As a light showeth better in the dark, so did thy Son F, O Jehovah, move the souls of even gods and goddesses in thy exalted heavens. 8. Then came thy voice, O Father, saying, Go thou, O Af, my Son, and deliver the earth. And, behold, the congregating of gods and goddesses, so eager to fly to the assistance of thy honored Son. 9. And God Neph said one favor, O Af, Son of Jehovah, I ask of thee, which is that thou shalt tarry 3 days and honor the throne of God. For I will have it founded and ready. And my lords shall have the honor of speaking to thee face to face. 10. Af, Son of Jehovah, said, By thy permission, O Jehovah, I will tarry 3 days and 3 nights with thy Son, God of heaven and earth, and I will honor his throne and speak face to face with his lords, that I may win their love. 11. In 3 days' time the kingdom of God was founded, and situated in Atmospheria, near and over the land of Japheth-Chania, but the plateau extended with 2 wings, so as to embrace Shem and Ham, India and Egypt. And thither went the gods, with their lords and attendants. 12. Now, there were with God Neph 2 million spirits earthborn in the second resurrection, who had volunteered to serve another 200 years for the founding of the new kingdom of heaven, and they were well learned in official capacity, knowing how to found plateau, with factories, mansions, hospitals, nurseries, and all such places as are required in heaven for the newborn, so that God only had to say, Do ye thus, or so. And it was done, and without error. 13. And now, from the hosts of Af, Son of Jehovah, there came before God 500,000 Etherian volunteers who desired to remain 200 years with God and his hosts. 14. God said to them, Behold, the earth hath passed Trisda, and it is no longer lawful for any but earth-born to hold the places of sub-gods and sub-lords and marshals. And since ye are from different stars raised, and from different Etherian circuits, what shall I do that ye may be honored, and also profitable to yourselves in development? 15. Gedaviah, chief spokesman for them, said, We desire to be laborers only. For what is 200 years to us? We pray thee, appoint us not to the Eons, for they are already advanced, but appoint us to the natives in the divisions of the earth, especially to those who speak but little, and to burrow in the ground. Neither do we desire a place in thy heaven, but we will abide with mortals, and in the first resurrection of those who are born in darkness. 16. God said, Thou shalt remain, and thy people with thee. For since thou hast volunteered to leave thy high estate and come and dwell for one den on the lowest of all places, laboring for the blind and dumb, thou shalt be recompensed with the love of millions in time to come. 17. Then God departed, and Af, son of Jehovah, went with him, and they came into the midst of the kingdom of God, whereat they halted, and God said, Here will I build my throne. And in Asmakesathots, in the olden time, called this place Hord, so will I call my place Hord also, and on the earth it shall be called the mountain of God, for it shall be my home. 18. So God stretched forth his hand to Jehovah, saying, Throne of thy throne, O Father. And there came down from the heavens above a great light, and it settled around about in the midst of the place of God and Af, Jehovah's Son. And presently the light gathered up of the atmosphere and substance and made it shining and condensed, whereupon the attendants who do such matters brought and laid the throne of God, and thereafter fenced it around with pillars of fire, after the manner of Hord of the ancient days. 19. And God ascended and sat on the throne, and Af also sat on the right hand of God, and the 4 lords of the earth on the left hand. But the 5th Lord, Elate, stood down at the foot. And he said, Behold, the division of the earth that was mine is sunk beneath the sea. How, then, shall I sit on the throne of God? 20. God said, Since thy labor hath been taken from thee, thou art as a parable on the newly dead, who have lost the earth, but have no place in heaven. Since the Essean serveth the time through the proxy of others, so shalt thou in that which I will bestow upon thee. No, then, thou shalt sit on my right hand, for thou shalt be my assistant and vice-God during the time of my sojourn. And, after that, whatsoever thou wilt. 21. Elate said, Thou hast honored me, O God. Jehovah's will be done. So God rose up, raising his hand, and said, O thou all-light, crown thou thy son vice-God of Hord, for thine own glory, forever. 22. And as the light of Etheria descended into God's right hand, he shaped it into a crown and placed it on Elate's head, with the usual ceremony of such rank in heaven. And Elate came and sat on the right hand of God. And in that same time, Af, son of Jehovah, rose up, whereupon God and the lords, and all people whatsoever, sat down, for the place was as if Jehovah had appeared in person. Af said 23. As a father is made to comprehend his own early life by looking on his infant son, so hast thou, O Jehovah, forever raised up before my eyes the images of times and conditions long past. In these, thy lords, thou hast called me back to the time and place when first thou and thy son crowned me a lord and a vice-God over one of the divisions of my native star. 24. And my soul rose up to thee in fear and prayer. For I understood how unmindful men and angels are of the labor of gods and lords, and prone to rate themselves as chiefs of all created things. But thy voice, O Jehovah, came to me, saying, Complain not, my son, against the self-conceit of men and angels, nor of their criticisms of my gods and lords. For to such boasters do I provide trials, which they perceive not till they are encompassed therewith. Suffer them, therefore, within thy dominions to grow in their own glory, for I have sufficient labor for them, either on earth or in heaven. 25. And I perceived thy wisdom, and I applied it through my angels. And when my people rose to the first resurrection, and the second resurrection, behold, I knew where to place them that they might prove themselves all in all. And thy light came upon me in my place, saying, As thou hast profited in the first lesson, so shalt thou comprehend the second, and even up to the Etherian heavens. 26. Nevertheless, O Father, thou sufferedst all things to harass me and perplex my soul. And I was filled with fear and reverence because of the great responsibility thou gavest unto my keeping. So great were my tribulations and trials that I called out to thee in thy holy place to remember all other gods and lords in thy whole universe. 27. And thou saidst, Hear the words of thy Creator, thou, my God, my Son, for I created man to enter heaven as helpless as he entered earth life, and dependent on those above him, that he might comprehend the unity between high and low, strong and weak, light and darkness. And I placed him in my mills, wherein he should learn that, even as others grind for him, so should he grind for those beneath him. 28. For of what profit under the sun is it for my lords to come down from their liberty and glory in my Etherian firmament and become lords over the grovellers in the flesh, or over the Essenes in darkness? Shall selfishness reign in heaven, and everyone for himself? Have I not proved it on the earth that the love of doing good works unto others is all that ensures a rich harvest of love in return? 29. Because they stoop from their high estate in order to promote my children which I created alive, are they not becoming the more one with me? Even so is all exaltation in heaven. For as I stoop down to the dumb earth and water, and quicken them, making man, so have I stooped lower than can anything of all my universe. And they that do after my example, raising them up to make them have joy in life, are on the road to attain to all power and wisdom and love. 30. Son of Jehovah, said I perceive thy wisdom, O Father. And thy power and wisdom came upon me tenfold. Then I sought forever after to go to the lowest and darkest places. But, lo, when I had grown in thy judgment, thou spakest again to me, saying 31. O my son, because thou hast found the key to unlock the doors to the highest heavens, behold, thou art too mighty for small labor. Come, therefore, with thy Creator, for I have a whole Etherean world at thy command, and thy wisdom and power are required at my hand. 32. And I obeyed thy call, O Jehovah. And then again, after a season, thou calledst me again, and madest my labors to extend into many Etherean worlds. But I love to look back and glorify thee for my first lorddom, and to treasure up the millions of loves I found in those days. And again, O Father, hast thou blessed me to meet many millions of them in this pruning of the red star, the earth. 33. Now thou hast called me to speak on the throne of thy God of earth. Alas, thy God has said, O Son of Jehovah, come thou and honor my throne. Whereas, O Jehovah, I am the most honored of men and gods because I have again opened my mouth before thee and in thy name. All glory be to thee, O Jehovah, now and forever. 34. Then Son of Jehovah, sat down, and God signaled to the marshals, who proclaimed freedom for 2 whole days. Thereupon the gods and goddesses of staff filed past the throne, and after them came the hosts of God, and then the hosts of the lords, for they all desired to pass near and look upon and receive the signal of his blessing. 35. And presently thereafter all the people joined in with the Essenors and sang the song of glory unto Jehovah, the All-Highest. And when it was finished, the multitude turned to recreation and social intercourse. Chapter X. 1. When the time came, God called his proper officers, and they proclaimed his presence, whereupon the people came to order. And God said too, even as it was before the submersion, so shall it now be, and ye shall fill the same places even as before, everyone to the place provided. Nevertheless, from this time forth, all work in heaven and earth shall be new, and as if nothing had been. Let my lords and their attendants, and their ushers, prepare for their departure. And from such other volunteers as have come into my kingdom they shall receive as they desire, and be assigned to labors suited to them, whether it be with mortals or with spirits in the first resurrection. 3. And to my marshals, messengers and asaph hear ye the word of your God, which is that ye proceed throughout Atmospheria, selecting and appropriating all suitable places for the spirits of the dead. And that ye apportion builders and workmen, and erect factories, and schools, and hospitals, and nurseries, and all other suitable places, adapted to receiving those of the first resurrection, as is done in all Atmospherean heavens, and all who are thus received shall be called Essenes for the first 5 years. But after that they shall be called Essenes, signifying having separated from corporeal desire, being full residents of the S-world. But those who will not become Essenes, being the spirits of drunk mortals and hard-bound to the earth, shall be called Dra, signifying wandering spirits of darkness and of evil. And those who engraft themselves on mortals shall be called Fetals, signifying sucklings, and these names shall continue in heaven and on earth to the end of the world. 4. Wherein ye may perceive the fault of leniency of the gods and lords of old, be ye circumspect in these times. For never more shall the rod of water chasten the living earth. 5. When God thus completed all his commandments, and the people were ready to depart, the ezianors and trumpeters sang and played a hymn adapted to the new heaven and new earth. And when this was finished, Af, son of Jehovah, spake, saying 6. Behold, the light of the high heaven opens. Thy Son, O Jehovah, longeth for a great labor. I go on a journey farther than 10,000 suns. Fiatisi, thy daughter, O Jehovah, and goddess of 1,000 worlds, hath set apart to join 2 corporeal stars in a far-off heaven, whereon 1,000 millions shall be delivered into spirit life in a single day. With her, by thy will and power, O Jehovah, I go. But yet let not these, thy gods and lords and all their hosts, surmise I will forget one single soul of all that are here. And when the next Dan appeareth, behold, I will return to them to enjoy a portion of their sweet love. Af is done. 7. And now the chief descended and sat at the foot of the throne, and God, suffused with tears, came down and took his hand, saying, Behold, he who is greatest maketh himself least of all. Arise, O Af, son of Jehovah, and crown the immortal God of the ark of Noah, son of the Almighty, arise and go thy way. 8. So Af rose up, and shaking hands with God and his lords, descended to the borders beyond the foot of the pillars of fire, and his hosts with him, being 10 millions in number, where the proper persons had in readiness in ascending out heaven with wings, wherein they all entered. 9. At a given signal the out heaven started upward, but toward the east, and, swift as a shooting star, it sped forth, and presently disappeared in the distance. Chapter X. 1 Jehovah said, Neph, my son, God of earth, hear thou the voice of thy Creator. For as thou calledest on me in thy sore hour of trial, so did I come to thee and deliver the earth and heaven through my son of the ark of Noah, in Etheria. Remember now the upraised of Oahspe, heaven of darkness, in Uklu, in the firmament, for they are thine until the next Dan appeareth on the earth. 2. God said, I have heard thy voice, O Jehovah. But what shall thy servant do? Behold, Af, thy ark's son, hath left with the upraised children of darkness, gods and goddesses who transcend thy servant so far in wisdom and power that he scarce can look upon them. How, then, shall it be with me, thy servant? 3. Jehovah said, Nevertheless, the upraised children of darkness are thine own family, and the glory of thy house in heaven shall be the light thou shalt make manifest in them. Fear not, the gods and goddesses understand this matter. 4. Therefore, when thou hast put thy kingdom in order, and established the heaven of the earth in all its parts, and stationed messengers betwixt thy throne and the thrones of thy lords on the earth, behold, thou shalt leave thy vice God to rule in thy stead for a season, and thou shalt go to Oahspe, in the Etherian forests, for thou shalt be expected of them. 5. God said, Thy will be done, O Father. I perceive thy wisdom and glory and justice. Now will I sojourn on my throne 1 year, and thou, my vice God, shalt relieve me whilst I go and visit my rebellious children in Uklu, where gods and goddesses are overseeing them. 6. The vice God said, Thy will be done, God of heaven and earth. So it came to pass that in 1 year's time God had established heaven in such good manner that he could control the affairs of angels and men into the way of everlasting life. 7. God informed his council, which consisted of 500,000 Ethereans, men and women, of the words of Jehovah, adding through to 8. And for 1 year will I remain in Oahspe, that I may become known to them whom I have risen. But at the end of that time I will return hither, and bring with me such new volunteers as Jehovah may command. 9. It was known in heaven that God would leave at the proper time. And, to honor him in Jehovah's name, his hosts from far and near, to the number of 10 millions, came to see him depart. And when God saw them, he proclaimed a day of recreation. And the people mingled together, and especially to reconverse on the matter of the deliverance of earth and heaven and the going down of Pan, as it had been. 10. On the following day, all hands being refreshed and assembled in order, according to the discipline of gods, God spake from the throne, saying 11. Hear the words of your God, and rejoice in the founding of a new heaven. Be wise in heeding that which I shall utter, and make yourselves steadfast in all proven things. Here are millions who stood by my side in the name of the Creator, in the days of darkness in heaven and earth. For 3,000 years our battle lasted. And from out of the darkness behold our prayers went up to Him who is over all and above all. 12. And your God said, surely Jehovah will deliver, when the vortex merges into Eden. And ye all repeated the same thing. And the unity of our soul's desire reached up to the Orient chiefs, Jehovah's mighty sons and daughters. 13. For as it is proven that a man in conflict with himself accomplisheth nothing, whilst he who is in harmony with himself is mighty wherein he ruleth himself to a good purpose. Even so hath it been proven that the unity of many angels can, by force of their own wills, control the place and proceedings of a world. And by your faith in this matter with your God, ye became a star of faith in Jehovah, which is the mastering of all things to His glory. 14. And they who were without an all-highest in person, were without power, and of no effect, save to build up discord to our proceedings. Whilst those who assumed to be gods and lords, but ignored Jehovah, were not sustained, for having nothing higher than themselves, they rose only to themselves. 15. Which is manifested on earth, even as it was in those days in heaven. Boasting of good works or of good prayers, but housing themselves about with the earnings of others. Did not these false gods and false lords set up self and worship it? And the fruits of their inspiration, and their slaves under them, were the angels they sent to rule over mortals, for the glory of their philosophy, wherein mortals also soon said the same things of themselves, which was, behold, there is no God nor Lord of wisdom in heaven and earth. 16. Whereby the doctrines of the false gods and lords overturned even their own kingdoms, changing heaven into Wagga. But when the light of Jehovah came, ye and your God and lords were one with His voice. Wherefore ye have been preserved in victory. And now hath it come to pass that your God and lords have established a new heaven and new earth for the glory of the Father. And he who labored so long in your love, now goeth to the other wing of the battle, where your brethren, toiling with those in darkness, will rejoice to hear of your fruitful labors. 17. Then God turned to His right, and said to Elate, Vice God of Jehovah, because thou wert robbed of thy division of the earth, even whilst thou wert in good work, Jehovah hath bestowed thee well. Thou shalt, therefore, hold the triangle of the gods of heaven until thy God returneth. 18. Thereupon God hung the triangle on Elate's neck, saying in Jehovah's name, All hail, God of heaven and earth. The hosts repeated, All hail, God of heaven and earth. 19. And God came down and sat on the foot of the throne, in the custom of gods. And he who had been anointed came down and took his hand, saying, Arise, O God, and go thy way. And God rose up, and the two, with their marshals and attendants, went down by the borders, at the line of the pillars of fire, where the proper persons had a ship with mantles and curtains in readiness. And God and His hosts, even 500,000 in number, entered the ship. 20. Meanwhile the Ezionors sang an appropriate anthem of glory to Jehovah the All-Highest. 21. At a given signal the ship started upward, amidst the applause of millions of angels assembled. And like a star it shot upward higher and higher, till it was seen no more. Chapters I. 1. The council of Hor being still in session, God, that is, Elate, ascended the throne. And the light of Jehovah fell upon God, so that he was well nigh obscured from sight, and the voice of Jehovah spake, saying too, Hear ye my voice. As by my presence and of mine own self I made each self, and gave thereto power of words, so am I in light manifest by soul words to my Etherean hosts. As to the lords of earth, ye have provided Ashers, and above them Asaphs, and betwixt all my kingdoms allotted messengers, so shall ye also provide for barbarians, familiar spirits, who shall be subject to the order of the Ashers and their lords. 3. I create alive all men, whether Hinds or barbarians, and your labor shall be not alone with my chosen, whom it is easy to save, but with those also who know me not, and know not my worlds. 4. Beside those destroyed by the flood, behold the earth is still covered over with men, women and children. 4. In the time of Af ye received volunteers from Oahspe, in Etheria. give them this matter in hand. 5. This was done, and they were divided up into groups, and the corporeans having been already numbered by the angels of heaven, the Etherenes were distributed accordingly. And these again selected and apportioned familiar spirits to abide with the barbarians. And these familiar spirits were the fathers and mothers and friends who had recently died, but still sojourned in the first resurrection. So the officers provided places on earth for these spirits, and persuaded them to reappear before mortals in order to prove continued life. But the officers never showed themselves. 6. Jehovah hath said, provide ye the way, but cause the familiars to do the labor. Neither shall ye make a familiar of the spirit of a young man or a young woman, lest they become fetals. 7. So it came to pass that a new department of heaven and earth was opened and set on foot during the absence of Neph, and in 1 year the matter was in prosperity. 8. At the end of 1 year God returned from the Hotchwan colony, bringing with him 5 millions of volunteers, being of the third resurrection. And, it being known in Horde when he would return, a great concourse of angels gathered together to receive him in honor, and to welcome the volunteers. 9. So that, when God's Etherean star descended, the vice-god, Elate, proclaimed a recreation of 10 days, which was to follow immediately after God should ascend the throne and regain his presence. And so, whilst the Asianors were singing, the star alighted, and the marshals and hosts of honor proceeded to the places, and received God, who at once ascended to the throne and saluted Elate, son of Jehovah, saying 10. By thy will and power, O Jehovah, thy Son rejoiceth in the time of this proceeding. Elate said, Welcome, God of heaven and earth. And he saluted with the sign of Jehovah's name, and was answered in like manner. 11. Without more ceremony, he took off the triangle of the gods and placed it on God's neck, saying in Jehovah's name, Receive thou the gift of the ancient gods. 12. Hardly had this been accomplished when the ship star alighted in the floor of the Congress, before the council, and near the altar of Jehovah. And the 5 millions of volunteers alighted, amidst the applause of the many millions assembled. 13. God, being reinstated, said, Let the marshals proclaim 10 days of recreation. For we shall account to our especial loves how we found matters in Hotchwan, and of the power of Jehovah manifested. Chapter 12. 1. The voice of Jehovah spake through God, saying, Because a new heaven is established, and because the old hath been raised up, let signs be manifested, whereby men and angels in after times may know what hath happened. For it shall come to pass in later days that men and angels may forget the flood and the purging of the earth. Bethink ye, O gods and goddesses, what shall be done. 2. Elate spoke in behalf of the council, saying, What shall we do, O Jehovah? And Jehovah answered, saying, Because I come near the earth in its early days, and farther off as it groweth older, men will say, Alas, the folly of the ancients. For I gave fear and faith as an heritage when men were weak in judgment. But, with the growth of wisdom, I take away fear and the substance of things not proven to the judgment. 3. Jehovah said in Cosman, Men and angels shall ask for proofs. One will say, How is it possible to relate the words spoken in the olden times? Another will say, How can it be proven that the old heaven was taken away? 4. Hear, therefore, the words of your Creator. And when one saith, Behold, in those days few men had the gift of words and speech, answer ye him, saying, Even so was it in heaven, and because they had not words, they could not be made to understand. 5. And another shall say, The Creator ruleth in large matters, but not in the small. And another shall say, Because the angels come in Cosman, so could they in the olden time. And ye shall answer them, saying, Who knoweth the plan for an earthquake, whether it be small or large before Jehovah? Is he not ever present? And do not certain conditions bring certain results? And they will answer, Yea. 6. Say ye, Give, then, a name to the highest cause beyond all research. And they will say, By the ancients called Jehovah. And they shall perceive that they have entangled themselves in a net. For if the condition of ignorance on earth begot ignorance in heaven, how could the light of heaven come afterward to the earth save from above? Since, then, the light of heaven came from above, who should invent the wisdom of a flood to come upon the speech of nations. 7. Give them, therefore, words in heaven and words on earth which are of matters of this nature, and make the sounds thereof sacred, so that it shall be proven in Japheth and Shem, and Ham, and Gautama, and in the heavens the root of belonging. The voice of Jehovah ceased. 8. God said, Thou art all wisdom, O Jehovah. Now have I a place for the new volunteers come from Etheria. For this shall be their matter and business with the familiars who dwell with the barbarians. So, accordingly, were they allotted. And they were enjoined to sing to mortals the song of the flood. And they thus established its history to endure forever on earth. Chapter 13. 1. All things prospered in heaven for many years, nor were there great wars on earth, nor famines, nor epidemics. And the lords of the earth had sufficient louis for all the faithists, so as to control in marriages to bring forth sons and daughters who would rejoice in heaven. 2. And as fast as they died on the earth, these angels were carried to heavenly places suited to them, where they were handed into the care of Asaphs and entered as Essenes. But the lords appointed no louis over the barbarians, and only commanded the Ashers to watch for their spirits in the hour of death, and, if possible, to bring them to the organic places of God in horde. And mostly they were so brought. This continued for many years. But in course of time the familiar spirits aroused up the barbarians, and they began to have dreams and see visions, for their familiars talked to them during sleep. And when this became common, Jehovah said 3. Behold, the time is come to appoint louis to abide with the barbarians. For herein will I reveal a great secret, which is that my chosen on earth cannot subdue it. For they are a harmless and defenseless people. Therefore, have I created the barbarian wisely. For he shall drive away and destroy all evil beasts and serpents. And the forests shall fall down before him. 4. For this purpose the louis shall select marriages with a view of raising up great kings and queens. But since, in the olden time, the kings depended on the prophets of God for counsel, and thus were advised against killing anything I had created alive, they quarreled. So in this time of the new heaven ye shall permit the kings and queens to consult the spirits of the dead with the talents I have given them. 5. This was done also. And the barbarians were attended by familiar spirits, many of whom took upon themselves any name pleasant to the ear, some of them calling themselves God or Lord, or after the name of some great king of the olden time. And these familiars, being stupid, supposed themselves to be such persons. 6. The result of their stupid impressions was to inspire the barbarians to believe they were attended by gods or lords, or by the spirits of kings or queens. And so they held up their heads and began to think. For as it had been said by the gods of ancient times, some are led by flattery, some by self-conceit, some by duty, some by love of righteousness. But there are others who can be led to self-improvement by persuading them they are chosen especially by some god or lord, or the spirit of a renowned king or queen, to work wonders. 7. God said there was a certain sick man who could not be cured by the physicians. So there came a foolish woman, seeing visions, and said to the sick man, Tomorrow thou shalt be healed. God hath been trying thee. But thou hast proven thyself in soul, and thy God will withdraw the spell of thy infirmity. Behold, thy God standeth by thee. 8. Now on the following day the sick man put forth his own spirit and rose up and was well. Wherefore, it hath been adjudged even deceit may accomplish what truth could not. Suffer then the familiars to lead the barbarians on for a season, but be ye watchful at the proper time to appoint new spirits to be with them. 9. God said, Instruct the lords that the time is now come to reveal to mortals, especially to the Eons, the 7 tetrachs. For, as the Ashers are withdrawn apace, so shall mortals advance apace. 10. Which is to say, these are the inheritances of all men born on the earth: Anash, which is persistent stubbornness, by word or thought. Zimah, wicked device. Ra, delight in being bad. Belial, worthlessness. Avayan, vanity and self-conceit. Dibah, slander and reporting of evils. and Satan, to be a leader, and especially to the delight of the other 6 entities. 11. These are the members of the beast of all men and women under the sun. Nor is anyone without them in some manner or degree. Go ye, therefore, to the lords and say to them, Jehovah hath set the beginning of the resurrection through Af, his son, chief of the ark of Noah, to lay the tetrarchs on the shoulders of mortals. 12. The marshals of the council provided messengers who were at once sent down to the different divisions of the earth. For the tetrarchs were some of the words selected in heaven to be given as everlasting names, whereby, in after ages, the tribes of Fiatists might be discovered. And they were given alike to the Fiatists of Gautama, Japheth, Shem and Ham, who were the sons of the ark of Af preserved on the earth in the day. For these words were provided in the Hebraic, Vedic and Algonquin languages, to be synonymous, till the coming of the Cosman era. Chapter 14. 1. The voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, Behold, the time draweth near when Af, my son, shall commit the care of Hord and her affairs to another god, for another 400 years. This, then, is the commandment of thy Creator, O God. Hord shall advance to the second resurrection. But the first resurrection shall be established with my lords. 2. And when the Lord hath a sufficient number of souls who are advanced to take the second resurrection, then shall they be brought to this, my holy place, where they shall be further prepared for the next resurrection. 3. This was accomplished. And heavenly kingdoms with thrones for the lords, for the first resurrection, were established on the earth, and in the divisions of the lords. So that there were allotted to these lords kingdoms 33 years for a resurrection, because 33 is the division of Dan corresponding to 100 Dans to each cycle 4. Accordingly, every 33 years thereafter there was one migration of a group from the Lord's first resurrection to that of Hord, which was God's second resurrection. Whereby the light of Dan fell on 200 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years and 1,000 years, which became the base of prophecy for each cycle from that time forth for a long period. 5. God said, Close the gates of Hord, and from this time ever after only those of the second resurrection can enter. And it was so. And Hord was extended over Japheth, Shem and Ham to the second degree. But of Gautama this is the manner for heaven. The Lord made 2 kingdoms, the first and second resurrections, and allotted the first to a proxy in his own name, but over the second he presided in person, teaching his people by proxy of God in Hord. For the distance of the sea lay between these heavens, and the access could not be made in the diminutive light of 33. Nevertheless, the Lord and his attendants maintained an Etherian ship that enabled him to cross the sea at intervals of 11 years. 6. Accordingly now, in the second resurrection, new colleges were established in heaven, and the spirits began the study of elements and illustrations in Es and Uz, and the process of travel and of carrying corporeal entities. And these spirits were at times, under Ashers, taken down to mortals to assist in miracles and legerdemain. For the lessons in the second resurrection embraced the mastery of corporeal analysis and synthesis. 7. After the first year of God in Huachuan, he went therefore every 11th year and remained 1 year of the earth's time. So that in 200 years he made 18 visits. Now on his first visit he brought back with him a certain number of volunteers, being of those raised by the ark of Noah. And the next visit he brought back twice as many as the first. And the next time 3 times as many as the second, and increasing for the 18 visits. And on the last visit it was estimated how many he had brought back in all, and the number was 1,000 millions. And they were raised to the second resurrection, having been under the training of the gods and goddesses of Huachuan, under the direction of Af, son of Jehovah. 8. And now that the time of Dan was drawing near, and Af should return to provide for the ascent of Jehovah's harvest, God looked up with a cheerful heart. For it was evident that by the expiration of the 200 years from the submersion of Pan, many of the spirits delivered from the earth in that day would be prepared to take the second resurrection. Wherefore God prophesied, saying through thee, O Jehovah, in another 100 years I shall have delivered them into Etheria Nirvana as thy brides and bridegrooms. Chapter XV. 1 Jehovah spake in the light of the throne of God in Hord, saying, Behold, A star cometh. 2. The voice ceased, but God and his hosts knew the meaning, for it was the time of Af to return and complete his deliverance of Neph and his hosts, and his lords and their hosts. 3. So the council were moved to look into the firmament. And the messengers who had heard the voice, and who were departing on their various missions, also looked upward, even as they sped forth to their places. And they proclaimed it in the places of all the heavens of the earth, and to the lords in their divisions of the earth. 4. And the angels of heaven and those that abode with mortals were stirred up, and because of their contiguity to mortals, the latter comprehended that something unusual was near at hand. 5. The council of Horde knew not how they should proceed, for the event was to surpass in magnificence anything they had ever witnessed. 6. God said, I have heard thy voice, O Jehovah. I know a star cometh, and great shall be the glory thereof. Give me light, O Father. How shall thy servant know the decorum of Orient chiefs? Behold, I am as one abashed with obscurity in thy wide universe. 7. Jehovah's voice answered, saying, Fear not, my son. And let thy counsel be strong also. Proceed at once to decorate thy people, preparatory to receiving the resurrection. And those who are to be my brides and bridegrooms clothe ye in white. 8. The whole council heard Jehovah's voice, and they ordained officers to proceed throughout Atmospheria and put in effect Jehovah's commandment. And the decorated angels, and those prepared as brides and bridegrooms for Etheria, were ordered to form in companies near the throne of God and Horde. And the officers of companies were also provided with badges, whereon was inscribed an account of their labor on earth and in heaven, the number and nature of their charities and self-sacrifices for others' good, and their great impurity and power and wisdom. And the privates were decorated with stars to illustrate the same things, in degree and number. And the stations of their file and horde were provided in the order of music, rating them according to their chord and discord, and their social adaptability. 9. For these things were done before Etherian judges, to whom Jehovah has said, Let the people pass before you, and judge ye them, that being assorted and arranged they shall make one harmonious whole. For it is only by this they will have power to ascend and endure in my regions of light. There were 1,000,000 of these judges, and they took up their stations in different parts of Atmospheria, wherever the second resurrection had been established, every judge choosing a district for himself or herself, for they were both men and women. 10. And as the angels passed before them, the wisdom of the judges was so great they could comprehend all they had ever done, either on earth or in heaven. And by signals the proper officers were advised how to decorate and adorn all of them. 11. And as fast as companies of 1,000 passed, they were provided with conductors, who took them to their places, which had been previously determined by the command of God. 12. Whilst this work was proceeding, lights began to appear in the firmament above. These were the marshals of the Orient fields in Etheria, in their starships, making course for Horde, and their number was legion. But presently one brighter and more powerful than the rest made way from the western arc of Oahspe, and it steered direct to God's throne, growing brighter and larger as it came. And when it entered past Chinvat, and was well within the vortex of the earth in the belt of the moon's orbit, its light spread across the whole atmosphere of heaven, and Horde was illumined, and the angels of Horde were stirred up with enthusiasm. 13. Not long the brilliant star delayed the suspense of the angel world, for he who sailed them was a god of millions of years, and by his wisdom attained to such mastery that the elements of earth and Atmospheria gave way, as if appalled by a heaven on fire. Down came the starship whose majesty outweighed all ceremony, a very crown of magnificence, even to the arena of the council of Horde. And he who came, attended by 500,000, was Suji, marshal for that which was soon to follow. 14. God rose up, saluting, and all the hosts rose up, whereupon Suji ascended the throne, greeted by God and his council, near at hand. Suji said 15. By thy will, O Jehovah. And God said in thy name, O Father, Creator. Welcome to thy Son. And presently all the place was aglow with a golden light, which ranks first in heaven of all colors, And the voice of Jehovah descended on Suji, and he said 16. Well beloved, come. Long enduring, come. Of patience and steadfastness, my sons and daughters. Behold, I came in the darkness and delivered me, for she was of twins heavily laden. And the one dwelt with the mother, but the other I sent to nurse in Huachuan. And they are grown to maturity. A son and daughter twin. 17. Turn ye to Huachuan. Lo, the twin cometh. She was the puny child. But look ye upon her, O ye gods and goddesses. Her 1,000 millions come as an avalanche of Jain worlds. Open your arms, O my beloved sons and daughters. 18. The voice ceased, and Suji said, when the harvest of Huachuan arriveth, attended by the gods and goddesses who help deliver the children of darkness, and who have changed them into beacons of light, behold ye, there shall be 3 days of recreation in Atmospheria. For the hosts of Huachuan shall be shown their native world, whence they came. And they shall read the lineage of kin and condition whence they were rescued by Jehovah's sons and daughters. 19. But on the first day, behold, the Orion chief, will descend in all his glory. And on the 4th day all your upraised sons and daughters shall ascend into the Etherian worlds, where there are waiting, to receive you, millions of souls, long since dwellers in nirvana. Suji ceased speaking, having given commands as to the stations of his marshals around about the earth and her heaven. 20. God sent his messengers, saying, Go ye to Wagga and say, God saith, my heavens have been numbered, and the account of my labor is rendered and recorded in the libraries of Horde. And of all the hosts who have labored with thy God, behold, thou, O Wagga, standest on the highest grade. Come, therefore, to the throne of thy God and be anointed God of heaven and earth for the next 400 years, and as long after as Jehovah willeth. 21. The messengers, attended by 1,000 marshals, departed for Ajin, the place of labor where Wagga dwelt, being of physicians nurse for Essenes and stillborn mortal children and those killed by abortion. And they delivered the message of God, to which Wagga replied, Thanks, O Jehovah. Tell God I will come. But yet let me surmise I have been all my life, now some 30,000 earth years, trying to learn where I should be most serviceable to Jehovah and his sons and daughters. And when I judge that I have found it, lo, a summons cometh from another way, saying, Come thou hither. Wherefore it seemeth Jehovah forever hurrieth us onward, faster than our wisdom can discover the requirement. So the marshals provided in Otevan, and Wagga was conducted before Horde, even to the foot of the throne of God, where he was saluted and received under a rod of water, according to his rank. Chapter 16. One nearer and nearer came the visiting stars, the Etherian ships from thousands of worlds, with countless millions of emancipated souls, dwellers in the Nirvanian regions of Jehovah. And when they reached the boundaries of the earth's vortex they halted a while, to form an rank and rank, that their glory might add to one another. And whilst they stood thus in the great vault of heaven, there opened on one side a gateway amidst the stars. And far beyond came a strange and mottled sun, swaying to and fro. And this was the great fields and forests of Huachuan letting loose the thousands of millions of the delivered earth. 2. God and his host saw it. And every soul burst forth one universal shout of applause. It was coming straight to Horde. And as it came nearer, the curtains and sails and streamers, made of yellow, blue and red fire, began to wave and surge, like a ship in a rough sea, but steadily holding course in the undulating elements. Presently could be seen guardian ships, thousands and thousands, traveling beside the laboring sun, the hosts of Huachuan. 3. And the guardian ships were themselves like stars, and carried millions of Etherian souls who had been gods and goddesses on many worlds. And they formed wings for the Huachuan avalanche, to hold steady the course to the red star, the earth of mortals. And thus, in honor discipline, came the fleet of Jehovah's worshippers, who only 200 years since, were but as vermin delving into darkness, and deep buried in death, as their only knowledge. To whom great Jehovah and his exalted worlds were unknown. 4. Brighter and brighter grew that great waving sun, sailed by the immortal gods, and larger and more imposing, till, when it entered the earth's vortex, it became as living fire, large as the earth, and of brilliant colors, from black to adamant, and blue, and white, and purple, yellow, scarlet, pink, and of all shades. And living, and sparkling, with the broad curtains suspended, deep as the breadth of a world, and sails and flags that reached upward, high as the moon. 5. Midway in the vortex of the earth it halted, and the myriads of stars beyond now gathered in, majestically, from every side, till nearly around about the fabric of the earth's atmosphere was not a place but glowed with Jehovah's fire of heaven. Music, which rose from the throne of God a little while before, now ceased. For here was the play of elements in harmony, of which music is the same to the ear of mortals. 6. Hardly stood the kaleidoscope of splendors in one attitude, but moving, changing and forming by the decrees of the gods and goddesses. As a general on earth manipulates his armies, in the evolution of arms, so in majesty and splendor the marshalling stars forever evolved new and glorious changes stretching abroad over the whole firmament of heaven. 7. And now another gateway opened amidst the stars. And a cluster star was seen approaching from the southeast. It was as a star surrounded by stars, and brighter than all the others. This was the ship star of Af, the Orion chief. At sight of which all souls in the firmament turned in pride and wonder. Swift and mighty above all the countless millions of gods and goddesses assembled had he attained in the play and management of worlds. And as sight of his Etherian star, angels and gods whispered Af. And the magic of his name, widely known in the Nirvanian fields of the emancipated heavens, spread abroad, till every soul uttered, APH. In all the regions of Atmospheria and on the earth. 8. Nearer and nearer he came, nor halted at Chinvat, the boundary of the earth's vortex. But steadily, and with power, sailed on till his star stood in the doorway of heaven, and here halted as if to complete the immortal scene. 9. But a moment more, and all the avalanche of the glorious worlds around moved onward toward the earth, and surrounding it on every side, and the star of Af making headway for Hord, even to the throne of God. 10. This was the morning of the third day in tide of Dan, in which there were still 4 days left. But now the marshals took their parts. First, Suji, chief over all the rest, from the throne of God, cried out, All hail, O Af, son of Jehovah! And the words were caught up on every side, and uttered in one breath around the world. Yet nearer and nearer gathered in the great starships and son of Huachuan, till even like a net they joined and filled the earth's atmosphere in the east and west and north and south, and below and above. On every side. And the words of the marshal All hail, O Af, son of Jehovah! Went like an echo over all the heavens. 11. Then Af's fleet drew near, and he and his hosts alighted, and he ascended the throne, saluting, saying All hail, O Neph, God of heaven and earth! And this was also uttered by the millions of hosts. Whereupon the signs and ceremonies of the gods were briefly concluded, and a recreation of 3 days proclaimed. And the angels' hosts came forth out of their ships, or by the endless chain sped to any quarter of the earth they desired to visit. And for 3 days and nights the visitors dwelt on the earth and in the lower atmospheria, inspecting how the earth was made, its land and water, its mountains and valleys, its beasts of prey and beasts of burden, its birds and fishes, and above all, its mortal people and spirits who lingered about the earth, the great storytellers, who knew no higher heaven. And then they surveyed Atmospheria and the works of God and his lords, their nurseries, hospitals, factories, schools and colleges. 12. And on the 4th day the marshals called order. And so great was the discipline of the hosts and the arrangement of the starships, that in a moment of time order reigned amongst all these countless millions of people. 13. Now, during the recreation, the chiefs from many worlds, and gods and goddesses, mingled together, and exchanged their varied experience in the wide regions of Jehovah's universe, of the management of both corporeal and Aesean worlds, and of the cosmogony of Etherian planets, and the surveying of roadways, and of turning worlds from their orbitic course, or changing their axic rotation, and of the deliverance of millions of souls into the Geaean fields, and of the creation of new corporeal worlds and the dissolution of others, and the gathering together of the spirits disinherited, and of their final resurrection. Neither seemed there any end to Jehovah's universe, where such wonders go onward forever. 14. When order was restored, God commanded Wagga to rise to be anointed, and God said, in thy name, O Jehovah, I anoint this, thy Son, God of heaven and earth, for the next 400 years. Guide him in wisdom and love, O Father. 15. And God gathered from the abundance of Ethek and made a crown and placed it on Wagga's head, saying, Hail God of heaven and earth, Jehovah's Son. This was shouted by the hosts. And then God took off the triangle, the samagon, the heirloom of the gods of the red star, the earth, and God hung it on Wagga's neck, saying, Take this heirloom, the symbol of three entities in one, and wear it for the glory of the Great Spirit, Jehovah. 16. To which Wagga, Now God, answered, Thy will be done, O Father, Creator and ruler over all. And all on the throne stood aside, and God Wagga ascended the throne and sat in the midst, whereat the Ezianors chanted, and the hymn sounded around the whole earth. Then Af, son of Jehovah, spake, saying, 17. In 400 years, O God, I will come and deliver thee in thy harvest, and thy lords and their harvest, for the glory of Jehovah, the unapproachable Almighty. Amen. 18. And now Af went and sat down at the foot of the throne, whereat God came down according to custom and took his hand, saying, Arise, O God, Son of Jehovah, and go thy way. And Af rose up, saluting, and he and his attendants departed and entered his starship. The Ezianors chanted, the trumpeters played, and the solemn march of Jehovah's sea of fire sounded from heaven and earth. 19. The marshals now put the great works in order. Neph and his attendants were stationed on the right of Af in a ship new built. Next to him, the ships of his lords and their attendants. After them, their marshals from the different divisions of the earth and atmosphere. Next to them, the ships of the messengers. Then the factors, then the nurses, then the physicians, and so on. And finally the divisions of earth raised, who are now adjourned to the sun avalanche, being of the same rank. And these comprised the harvest of Neph for Jehovah's emancipated realms. And the number of souls exceeded all other harvests raised up from the earth. 20. And now had come the time for the ascent, and Af said, Give us of thy power, O Jehovah. And his words were echoed in all places in heaven and on earth. The plateau trembled and oscillated. Again Af said, Of thy power, O Jehovah. Arise, O heaven. Arise, O heaven. 21. And the plateau of the sphere started from their foundations, and slowly moved back and outward from the earth. The Ezianors played the march. The Etherenes tore off strips of fabric and threw them down in horde, and then formed flowers and leaves and perfumed them, and cast them out, to fall in the lower heavens. 22. Outward and outward the Etherean world moved, and then parted the breadth of the earth, and then rose slowly upward. Presently it turned on its own axis, and was as yet one entire world. But with its rotation the different stars began to individualize and separate, all save the harvest of Neph, which was the central figure, led onward and upward by Af, son of the Great Spirit. 23. Faster and faster rose the glorious scene, and more awful, and sparkling with splendor. Nor could one from horde scarce look upon the dazzling light. But higher it rose, and onward, toward its far-off destiny, till it disappeared in the firmament above. Chapter 17. 1. Now was the atmosphere like a new heaven stripped of visitors, and ready to resume labor after a glorious festival. So God at once dispatched all hands to their places, and the factories, schools and colleges, nurseries and hospitals, were once more alive with willing workers. 2. And horde prospered in every department. And so also did the departments of the lords on earth. And mortals also prospered under the light of the Great Spirit. 3. For 400 years God reigned in heaven, and his lords under him, and the second Dan of Af fell upon earth and heaven. So God appointed Anan as his successor. And now Af and his attendants came to deliver God. His lords and people prepared for their resurrection up into Etheria. 4. And the number of Jehovah's harvest was 1,000,000,000 souls. 5. And God Anon reigned his time, and his lords under him, and they were also delivered by Af, but by proxy, and the harvest of Jehovah was 800,000,000 souls. 6. And his successor, God of Hord and Atmospheria, and his lords, fulfilled their Dan, and they and their harvests were delivered by the proxy of Af also. And the number of souls delivered was 600,000,000. And Jehovah commanded Af to commit Atmospheria and the earth to the successors of Razan of Geroista, in Ems of the Etherian Phinites of Adi Erdof. 7. And the next harvest of God and his lords was 200,000,000 souls. After that the earth passed into the Agi of Urkstan for 800 years, and the light of the upper heaven was lost to earth and Atmospheria. So there was no harvest for the Etherian realms. And because of the darkness in Atmospheria began to fall in Hada. And the 7 entities of Tetrax took root in Hord, and overspread the dominions of God and his lords. And many in heaven rose up, and, proclaiming themselves gods or lords, obtained followers, some to the extent of 3,000,000 of souls. 8. And these false gods made slaves of their followers, exacting service, and in lieu giving pitiful homes and regimen. And by the labor of their slaves embellishing their mansions and cities in Hada. 9. Jehovah has said of old before mortals, I keep death forever present, that they may not forget the change from corporeal to spirit life. Otherwise they would dispute it possible in my hands for these things to be. But my resurrections in heaven are far apart, and the inhabitants thereof lose faith in those above them. Through faith is all power and glory attained. Therefore have I exacted that angels cultivate faith in the next resurrection. 10. But during the last 1,000 years in Atmospheria, there being no resurrections to Etheria, many fell into disbelief of the emancipated heavens, and so sat about, building up heavenly kingdoms on their own account, and for their own glory. And in order to have exalted kingdoms they sent their slaves back to mortals to inspire them with the glory of their false gods' kingdoms, that others in turn might become slaves also. 11. So confusion began in heaven again, and it reacted on mortals, through the angels' presence, and war and misery overspread the nations and tribes of men on earth. Thus ended the cycle of Af's Ark of Noah, which was 3,600 years. End of the Book of Af, son of Jehovah.